This season for the Brooklyn Nets was really interesting to say the least. The big three of Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving all came back, and according to Vegas, they were the favorites to win the 2022 NBA championship. From the start of the season, the Brooklyn Nets faced dysfunction, with Kyrie Irving refusing to get vaccinated, which totally messed up their plans to build more chemistry and consistency between the big three. It didn't help that James Harden came into camp overweight because he wasn't able to have a regular offseason due to his hamstring injury he suffered in last year's playoffs. Going into this season, there was a lot of hope and hype with this team. Everyone knew how good they were capable of being, but we just haven't been able to see them on the court together. The big three only played 16 games together in 2 seasons, but in those 16 games, they were 13-3. There were times last year when the Brooklyn Nets offense looked flat out dominant with all 3 of their stars playing. It's still crazy to think about what that super team could have potentially accomplished. Being available was also a big issue for Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Kevin Durant missed 27 games due to an MCL sprain in his left knee, an injury he suffered on January 15th. Kyrie Irving missed 53 games due to not taking the COVID vaccine, and James Harden just never really looked comfortable. I guess you can blame the new rule change that took effect at the beginning of the NBA season, which eliminated foul hunting with non-basketball moves. Essentially, the referees no longer rewarded offensive players who launched themselves into defenders aiming to draw fouls. The start of the season wasn't too bad though. Kevin Durant looked as if he was the best player in the world. The Nets didn't have Kyrie, and James Harden was adjusting to the rule changes. But with all that, the Nets still had the best record in the Eastern Conference at the time. Unfortunately, on January 15th against the Pelicans, Kevin Durant injured his MCL and will have to miss significant time. The team went 5-17 in those games without Kevin Durant. The Kyrie COVID vaccine is something this team had to deal with all season. At first, Kyrie wasn't able to play any games, but as the months went on, that turned into he can play road games, and he made his long-awaited season debut against the Indiana Pacers on January 5th, where he scored 22 points, 4 assists, and 4 steals. Then, on March 24th, Kyrie was allowed, finally, to play home games once New York City changed their COVID vaccine mandate. But as the season went on, James Harden started to grow frustrated with Kyrie Irving and his part-time status. According to Jeff Fisher from Bleacher Report, Harden has been vocal to Nets figures and close contacts alike about his frustrations regarding Kyrie Irving's part-time playing status. A recent injury to Kevin Durant has exacerbated the issue, leaving Harden to shoulder the majority of the offensive burden during Brooklyn home games. I guess Harden finally got what he wanted, because on February 10th, 2022, on the trade deadline, the Brooklyn Nets and the Philadelphia 76ers agreed to a trade that would send James Harden and Paul Millsap to Philadelphia for Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and 2 first-round draft picks. Seth Curry and Andre Drummond fit in right away, making an immediate impact for Brooklyn. But not Ben Simmons.
Obviously, he ain't got nothing on Ben Simmons. Nobody is worse than Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons might also be the weakest, most pathetic excuse for a professional athlete we have ever seen in not just American history, but the history of sports. I can't think of a professional athlete that has come across more pathetic than this man.
Not only did he not play a single game for the Philadelphia 76ers this season, he didn't play a single game for the Brooklyn Nets either. I like Ben Simmons, honestly. I think he's a pretty good player, and it's just pretty unfortunate to see him going through what he's going through. And hopefully next season he's able to go out there and prove all the haters wrong. So in Philadelphia, he was dealing with his mental health struggles, which is why he was away from the team. And then he gets traded to Brooklyn, and now instead of mental health, it's now the issue of the back. And now that turns into his mental block can start causing pain to the back. The Brooklyn Nets finished the regular season with a record of 44-38 and the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. They had to play the Cleveland Cavaliers in the play-in game, but they won and will face Boston in the first round. I'm not even gonna lie, even though Brooklyn was a 7th seed, I still thought they were dangerous just because of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. And then plus, there was some chatter of Ben Simmons coming back into that Boston series too. Last year in the 2021 playoffs, these two teams matched up in the first round, and Brooklyn won the series in 5 games. So I guess going into this series, Boston took it personal. This series was actually very surprising to me. I've never seen Kevin Durant struggle like this before. Boston played smothering defense, and Durant never really looked comfortable at all during the series. Through those 4 games, he had a total of 21 turnovers and shot 38% throughout the series. And then, other than the first game of the series where Kyrie dropped 39, he didn't help out much either, scoring 10 points in Game 2, 16 points in Game 3, and 20 points in Game 4 when they got swept. Overall, this season was really disappointing for the Brooklyn Nets due to expectations and how they actually performed. Could you imagine if Kyrie would have gotten the vaccine at the beginning of the season and James Harden didn't get traded? I personally think they would have won the championship, or at least made a deep run in the playoffs. I guess we can just add this Nets team to the countless list of NBA what-ifs. What do you think would have happened if Kyrie got vaccinated at the beginning of the season and the team never traded James Harden? How far would they have gotten? Leave it in the comments.